כן.
Let's go. All right, now we are on Parshas Emor. And we're coming to near the end. Parshas Emor. So what happened? We started yesterday about the sad case of the Mekalel. Mekalel, a young man, Jewish man. Unfortunately, he had a non-Jewish father. And he wanted to set up his tent in the tribe of Dan because his mother was from the tribe of Dan. He wanted to take somebody's land from them or a portion of somebody's land. So they said, listen, you're not from the tribe of Dan. People only get land according to their tribe, and the tribe goes according to the father. So you'll have to just live with your mother, and your mother's, because after the daughters of Tzalafchad, I guess the women also got a portion. So he got all mad. That's according to one opinion. He got all mad and he went out and he cursed and he used the name of Hashem in cursing. So that's a forbidden thing. You can't do that. So Moshe said, let's put him in prison. So let's look and see. Ready? Let's just go over it briefly what we did yesterday. All right? Briefly we'll go over. We are now on Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. And, is this straight? Yeah. Book of Leviticus. And, better. And we're on chapter 24, sentence number Yud. So it says, Vayetze ben Isha Yisraelis, Vahu ben Ish Mitzri, there went out a son of a Jewish woman that was also the son of a non-Jewish man, of an Egyptian man. And Rashi says this is the man that Moshe killed because he saw him beating a Jew. Israel, and interestingly enough, it says that he saw him beating a Jew. If you look over there, it's right in the book of Shemot after Moshe gets saved, right in the very beginning when Moses gets saved. So he said he went out, and he saw an Egypt beating a Jewish man. So it says that he beat a Jewish man, that this Egyptian raped this man's wife. And the man came home and he disguised himself as a Jewish man, raped his wife. And the man came home and started saying, what are you doing? And the Egyptian was beating him. And Moses, it says, killed him by saying a word. And he killed him. And it seems that this boy was the result of that relationship. So he said, this young man, Yikov et Hashem, he got all angry. Rashi gives three explanations what exactly the reason was for his cursing. And we learned that yesterday. And one of the reasons was, like I said, he wanted to take land in the area of the tribe of Dan. And he wasn't from the tribe of Dan because it goes after the father, not the mother. And his father was an Egyptian. Another one was he went out from his portion in the world to come because he cursed, whatever he cursed, reason was him cursing for. And it gives a third reason, that he disagreed with the what was called the face bread. There's a law of the face bread in the temple, that there were 12 loaves that were made, and that these loaves would be eaten by the Kohen 9 days after they were put there. Every Shabbat they would be baked every Friday, and then changed on Shabbat, and the Kohen would eat on that Shabbat. He would eat the bread from the previous week. So he said, isn't that ridiculous what God is doing to the Kohanim, making them eat 9-day bread? Well, and he laughed and he scoffed, and that eventually brought him to curse. Okay, so He says the name, and he said, what name did he hear? That he was there at Mount Sinai. So this happened obviously before the when the Jews were wandering around in the desert. And he was one of the people that were at Mount Sinai, and he heard the name of God. He heard God say, I am God, your God. Anochi Hashem Elokeinu. He heard God's name, and he used that name, cursed God, cursed this person, whatever, with using that name. That's taking God's name in vain and not allowed to do. What is the punishment? Let's look and see. Yud Gimel, sentence Yud Gimel. Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe lemor. I'm sorry. Yeah, sentence Yud Beis. Vayanichu b'mishmar. They put him in mishmar, in like a prison, jail. Lifrosh lahem al pi Hashem, to explain to them, to be clear what God wanted. Let's see what it says in Rashi. Vayanichehu, Yud Beit. Vayanichehu, levado. They put him alone. Let's see what we have over here. Is this here? Vayanichehu, b'mishmar lifrosh Hashem. It says, Rashi says, here, this Rashi is in the shaded part here. Vayanichehu levado, alone. V'lo henichu mekoshesh imo. They didn't put the gatherer of wood together with him. Okay, there's another embarrassing episode in the time when the Jews were wandering around in the desert, where someone did a crime punishable by death. There was the man that gathered up wood on Shabbat. You know what was forbidden? It was mekoshesh eitzim. That he gathered up wood on Shabbat. It says they both of them were waiting in prison. Shishneim ayu b'perek echad. Both of them were at the same time. Two separate. He cursed with using God's name, and he transgressed the Shabbat. V'yodim hayosha makoshesh b'meta. The gather of wood, they knew that he was punishable by death. It was one of the 10 commandments. You have to keep the Shabbat. But like it says, mechalaleha mot yumat. It says that a person that defiles the Shabbat, the punishment is death. Avalo perish lehem be'ezem mita. They didn't know which death it was with the gather of wood. Avalo perish lehem ezem. They didn't know what. Therefore, it says kilo perish ma yaselo. They didn't know what to do. That was with the gather of wood. But they didn't want to put the cursor together with him. Why? Because by then, the one who cursed was a different question. Abu Mekalel, who know, Umar, by the cursor it says, Lifrosh lahem. Shalo ayu yodim, they didn't know im chayav mitalat, if he was, they should put him on death row or not. They didn't know if the punishment was death or not. What did he do? He cursed. Not only that, he didn't really do anything. He just said, speaking is not really the same thing as doing. Vayadaber Hashem al Moshe lemor. Moshe, God said to Moshe, Hotziyat makalel chutz min achaneh. Take him outside of the camp. Samchu kol hashomim et yadeim al rosho. All the people that heard him curse should put their hands on his head. V'ragmu oto kol oida. And they should stone him to death. The whole entire congregation. That's like 6 million, 3 million people. Everybody's going to stone him. How could possibly that many people, they'd have to arrange it specially, but they have to put them on some sort of a pole or about a stadium or something, that many people. How could it possibly be? Let's look at Rashi. Hashomim says those people that heard him, what does it mean to heard him? Elu ha'edim, those 2 witnesses. The witnesses that came in court and testified against him, they put their hands on him. Yodeim, they should put at Yodeim their hands. It says, Omrim lo, they say to him, Damacha baroshacha. They put their hands on his head, saying, you caused your own death. And anu na'anashim b'mitatcha. We are not punishable because of what you did. You knew what you did was wrong. She'ata garamta lacha. You caused it. You didn't care what punishment you got. You used God's name in vain. You knew that it was a wrong thing. You knew it was punishable. Therefore, it happened to be, your punishment is death. You brought it on yourself. You were ready for anything. Kol Oida, the whole entire congregation has to put their hands on his head. Can this be? 600,000 males above the age of 20. There was all the children, all the. But Ahmad Kol Oida, it means that everyone has to see it. Everyone sees it. Mikan, we hear from this, Sheshlucho shel Adam kamohu, that the emissary of a person, if someone chooses someone to represent them, that representative is in the place of the person himself. In other words, not all the Jews were there. The ones who were appointed were representatives of all the Jews. So there were the 2 people there, the 3 people there. Maybe there was a court who knows, to see what was. Next sentence, Tetvav. The El Bnei Yisrael, and God said to Moshe, to the Jewish people, to daber le'emor, you should speak and say, ish, every person, ki yakalel elokov, if you curse using the name of Hashem, v'nasa cheto, you must bear the sin. Rashi, nasa cheto bekoret, means getting cut off from Hashem. Wait, what about stoning? I thought it was stoning over here. It says, okay, laws like this. Any punishment, anytime there's corporal or capital punishment, getting beaten or death, there are 4 types of death that the court can decide on. Either what's called stoning or burning or choking, stoning or burning, right? Or choking, or what is it? Getting one's head chopped off. That's called skila, is stoning. What was stoning? They would take a person and put him up on a place that was about 12 feet high, put a rock on his chest, and push him over, and he would fall down with this rock, would fall on him. If not, he would die. They would stone him. Burning means they would pour hot lead down his throat. Pretty nice. Choking, chenek, 2 men would stand on either side and they would pull a thing until it was choked. And being beheaded was with a sword. Pretty severe. But on the other hand, the person could say, why do you have to have 4? I mean, just pick one of them and that's good. Right? In America, there's all the different states have their own ways of, but it's only one way. What do you have to, so it says that because getting killed was not designed to just kill the person. It was a spiritual, mystical thing that doesn't exist anymore. Spiritual, mystical thing that was in order to fix up that particular blemish, which was caused by that particular sin. It was almost impossible to really apply any one of these punishments. First of all, in order to really to make it actually happen, the person had to be warned. He had to be warned by 2 witnesses. There had to be 2 witnesses that saw him do it and warn him and tell him, don't do what you're doing. And if you do it, you're going to get punished. And they have to tell him exactly what the punishment is. And he has to answer within like 3 seconds. He has to answer and say, I know, and that's why I'm doing it. I don't care. And then he has to do it immediately. If he takes a little bit of time, they'll say maybe he forgot, maybe he didn't know. So it was almost impossible. There's a Mishnah in Kritot, Mishnah in Kritot, and it says over there that if a court would kill somebody, have somebody killed once every 7 years, and some people say even once every 70 years, that was called a destructive court, Beit Din Chablanit. And Rabbi Akiva said that if I was back then when there was punishment, then nobody would die. I would make it questions and things like that. Everybody would get confused. So no one would ever get punished by death. And someone said back to him, I have to look and see, if so, you're encouraging murderers. And okay, there's side to both sides, but nevertheless, that's why he says, what happens if a person does a sin and there isn't the proper witnesses? The witnesses aren't there. Oh, they didn't warn him in the proper way called hatra'ah. They didn't warn him. Something was missing. What if he did it alone? What if he did a sin alone? He went in his house, closed the door, and he started cursing, right? He started cursing, stubs his toe, curses in the name of Hashem. Big sin. So it says, what's the punishment? The punishment is koret. the person gets cut off. Getting cut off means that either he dies before a certain amount of time, or it's not nice, but it's a spiritual thing, and it's not this ugly physical death that we're talking about. So says he get nasa cheto, he will bear his sin even if he does it privately. Bekoret, if there is not any warning. You could have said no warning or witnesses. The no cave shame. The no cave shame. He says if a person takes the name of God in vain, Eino chayav, he is not punishable. Ad sheyiforesh, at the shame, he has to say God's name the way it is written. The punishment that's punishable by death, if he says, like we say, God something, or he says, oh God, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to take God's name in vain. Right? You're not supposed to, but that's not the crime that's punishable by death. Punishable by death is only if you say the name as written in the Torah, I guess Yud-Kei, Vav-Kei, whatever, you say that name, that's punishable. The no cave, what does it mean? No cave, the word no cave shame is a kalal, it's a curse, like it says ma ekov. Yud Zion, Tet Zion, Tet Zion. The no cave shame Hashem, one who takes the name of God, mot yamut, will die, rogem, rogmo otobo, he will be stoned, kol edah, by the whole entire congregation. Like we said, if the Beit Din does it, that's as though all of the Jewish people do it. Kager ke'ezrach, whether it is a convert, whether it is a Jew that's always been, if he takes the name of God, he will die. Now, the word ger can mean several things. Generally speaking, it means two things. A ger is a convert, and a ger can also be what we call a ger toshav. Technically, according to the Torah, a non-Jew is not allowed to live in Israel. No such thing. Can't have a non-Jew. Eretz Israel is Kodesh. It's holy land. You can only have holy people there, the Jews, but there's a big exception. What is the exception? There's actually a couple of exceptions. One exception is a non-Jewish servant, an Eved, Kanaani, a non-Jewish servant. Even though a non-Jewish servant, he's something like a Jew. He's something like a Jew. If you free him, he becomes 100% Jew. A non-Jewish servant technically is supposed to be circumcised. You have to circumcise him, and he does the commandments of a woman. Or there is another exception, what's called a ger toshav. A ger toshav is a non-Jew that accepts upon himself to do the 7 Noahide commandments. All the 7 Noahide commandments, in other words, he can eat not kosher food and things like that, but he does not worship idols, he does not steal or kill or lie. No, what do you say, licentiousness, or what is it called, the decadence. So that's what it is. Kager ka'ezrach, whether it is a non-Jew or a Jew or a convert or a regular, but nakvu shem, if he takes the name of Hashem in vain, the punishment is death. The ish ki yakeh et nekol nefesh adam, a person, if he smites another person, mot yumat, he will die. Oh, hey, where do we get this one from, huh? If you hit another person, the punishment is death. Well, that's not so. That really is not so. You punish him. So what is God saying over here? This is very confusing. Let's look and see Rashi. Now, the Rebbe pointed out many times that Rashi only comments on, in order to answer or to clarify questions that a 5-year-old child would ask. An intelligent 5-year-old child. It says, Ben Chamesh Lemikra. A 5-year-old child is first time he's learning the Torah. So he'll ask questions. And also a 5-year-old child realizes this is God's Torah, and he wants us to understand. That's why he gave us the Torah, so we'll understand. That's why he gave it. Didn't just give the Torah so that we'll do whatever we want with it. There are meaning, and we have to understand, but we don't understand. So let's see, ask questions. Here's one question which says, you want to say that if you hit another Jew, the punishment is death? Ish ki yaket nefesh adam mot yomah. Let's see. Ish ki yaket. The fish and because it says make ish en li ela shaharag at the ish. Here it says make, it means to kill. Isha katan menayin. Here it says clearly that if you kill a man, punishment is death. We'll see in one moment what this means. Why doesn't it say just clearly if you kill somebody? How do you know if you kill a man? How do you know if you kill it? What if he's not a man? What if it's a woman? What if it's a child? Talmud Lomer, it says, Kol nefesh adam. It says, Makeh ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam. Any soul of any person. Let's continue. Makeh nefesh behema yishalmenu. If a person kills another person, okay, an animal. If a person, makeh means to kill. If a person in this case, we'll see, a person who kills an animal has to pay for it. If a person kill nefesh tachas nefesh, a soul in the place of a soul. What does that mean? Soul in the place of the soul. It means money, the value. We'll see. Ish kiten mum ba'amito. If a person makes a mum, a blemish in someone else, takes out a person's eye, takes out a person's hand, cuts it off. Whatever he does to the other person should be done to him. Really? Is that so? Shever tachat shever, you break his hand, your hand gets broken. Ayin tachat ayin, an eye in the place of an eye. Oh, everybody uses the sentence. Shein tachat shein, a tooth in the place of a tooth. Kasher yiten mum ba'adam, ken yinaten lo. Whatever damage you do to another person, this is what should be done to you, the damager. Is this so? Not so. Let's look and see. Ken yinaten bo pirushu rabotenu. The rabbis learned. That's why it's so important to have the proper interpretation. She'enu natinat mum mamish. That does not mean that what you do to your neighbor is done to you. It doesn't mean that you get the same blemish. Ela tashlumi mamon. You pay the money. Shami moto ka'eved. We estimate the person like a servant. You have to pay not only that, you have to pay also the shame and the pain for the person and the healing of the person, boshes and ripui and shevis. Says lokach, therefore kasiv loshen nitina. What does it say? Whatever you do to a person, what says kasher yitain, what you put a blemish in another person, can yinatain, should be given to him. Why given? It should be done to him. Given means you have to give money. A davar hanitan miyad liyad. Is that what it says? An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth and all these things. Eye for an eye. It doesn't mean that if you take out somebody else's eye, that, God forbid, that your eye is taken out. It means you have to pay the value of the eye. Maka, here's another sentence. Look at this. Maka behema yeshalmenu. A person that smites an animal has to pay for it. Make adam yumat. If you hit a person that kills someone, make adam yumat. A person that kills someone else will die. But it doesn't say that in the sentence. It says if you hit someone, make adam. Why does it say? Let's look and see. Maka behema yeshalmenu. The Maila, it's talking about the horog behema. It's talking about killing an animal. Here it's talking about just wounding an animal. Oh, here the word makeh really means to make a wound. If so, what's the end of the sentence over here? Hey, it says, makeh adam yamut. If you make a wound in a person, then you die. Makeh adam yamut. Let's see what Rashi says. Afilu lo horgo. Even if you don't kill him. You just make a blemish in the person. Shalom Marakan. It doesn't say nefesh. It doesn't say here you're killing makeh nefesh. In other words, if you just make a wound in a person, then you're punishable by death. Wow. What are we talking about? Let's look at Rashi. B'makeh avi v'imo davar kasuv. The Torah here is talking about a person who makes a wound in his mother or his father. A person that even curses his mother and father. Bo lahakishu l'makeh be'ima. It's coming to teach you about giving a blemish in an animal. Ma makeh be'ima. Just as when you make a blemish in an animal, the animal has to be alive. Right? Why does it put giving a blemish, wounding your mother or your father? It's punishable by death.
How do they value it?
A person that's right. A person that makes a wound, it's a big problem. A person, let's say, is a dentist and he has to pull out one of his father's teeth. It's a big question if he can do it or not. If there's no one else, then he can do it. If not, it's a big question. If you can make a wound in your father, be careful.
A person's eye is worth.
What?
How do they value how much a person's eye is worth?
So it says you value it according to a slave. You take a slave, how much a slave would be worth if he was a person like you? How much someone would be willing to pay for a person like you with an eye and without an eye? How much is it worth?
But without an eye, he can't see what he's doing.
One eye, the other eye, it's worth less. How much more money worth? But that's only just the damages. You also have to pay for his healing. You have to pay for the time that a person is pain. You have to pay for the person's how much pain he has. You have to also pay for the person's shame. Okay, let me just finish this law and then we'll ask questions. Av makeb aviv, also a person when he hits his father. This is talking about a person that, God forbid, makes a wound in his mother and father. The punishment is death, but on one condition, that his mother and father are alive. That we learn from this about the animal. Just like an animal, the only time you're punishable by making a damage is if you hit the animal, make a wound in the animal when he's alive. Also, your parents, the punishable by death. Punishable by death is only a person who makes a wound in his mother and father intentionally, and of course there's warning and etc. Only when they're alive. This is to exclude making a wound in your parents after they are not alive. Like we find in the Makalel. Shamakalelo, a person, God forbid, that curses his parents after they are not alive anymore, the punishment is no longer death. A person that curses his parents when they're alive, the punishment is death. And I want to remind them again, it means the punishment is only if you have warning and there are witnesses, you were warned beforehand, you did it on purpose. Therefore, it's coming to tell you that if you give them a blemish after they are dead, or you curse them after they are dead, there is no punishment. It's forbidden to do, but there's no punishment. Just like in an animal, it has to be that when the animal was alive, you made an actual wound, you drew blood. Also, a person, if he hits his mother and father and he does not draw blood, he is not punishable. Enochayav is not punishable until he makes a wound in them that draws blood. And let's look at Chav Beis. Chav Beis. Let's just finish, and then you can ask questions afterwards. Mishpat echad yelachem. One judgment should be all of you. V'ger ke'ezrach yeh, like a non-Jew, a ger or a convert, and a non-Jew. Now, a non-Jew that hurts another Jew, the punishment, it can be death. That's the 7 Noahide commandments. So probably here he's talking about a convert. Ki ani Hashem Elokechem, I am God, your God. I just want to also say, and I don't know if there's ever been a case that says that Shimon and Levi, that the reason that they were able to kill all the people of Shechem was because they transgressed. But I don't remember, it's just very rare cases that I've seen, or that I've even heard of, where a non-Jew, even in the time where the Jews were ruling Israel, actually got punished because he transgressed one of these things. Okay, the non-Jews are if a non-Jew, according to the law, the 7 Noahide commandments, of a non-Jew damages or steals even a penny from a Jew, he could be punishable by death. But like I said, I never saw a case where that was actually applied, implemented. Ani Hashem Elokechem, and it ends up, let's see, Yud Gimel Vayadaber Moshe. I'm sorry. Mishpat echad yelachem ke'ezrach yeh ki ani Hashem Elokechem. I am God, your God. Chav Beis Elokai shelachem. I am your God. Keshem shani miyached. Just like I unify my name on you. Ken ani miyached shemi ala gerim. The same thing. I unify my name with the converts. And we're talking about converts. A person that converts to a Judaism is as much a Jew as a regular Jew, even though the fact is he didn't come from a Jewish background. U'bnei Yisrael, and how does it end up? Sort of an unhappy ending. Vayadaber Moshe al bnei Yisrael v'yotziyat ha'makalel. They took out this cursor outside of the camp. V'yergamu oto oven, and they stoned him with stones. Bnei Israel also, and the Jewish people did, kasher tzivu Hashem es Moshe, they did what they were told. Let's look at Rashi, Chav Gimel, Kol a mitzvah amura beskila, all of the commandment that is done with stoning, like it says somewhere else. The commandment of stoning, like I said, you take them on, put them on a high place, and you push them off. And Dechia, Regima, Talia says you have to push him off of a high place, and if he doesn't die, then you have to stone him. And then afterwards, his body has to be hung up for just a second. They hang up his body, they tie his hands together and hang up his body. It says Chasla Parshas Emor. This is the end of Parshas Emor. Now you have questions. Please ask your questions, and we're going to learn Mishnah. Go on, kids. Ask away.